Hi, I'm Joe from As the Joe Flies.
And I'm Leslie from Trips with Tykes.
And welcome back to Disney Deciphered. If you're in the States, we hope you had a good Thanksgiving holiday. Leslie was on a Thanksgiving cruise. As our patrons know, you can join us, patreon.com/Disney Deciphered, receive bonus live trip reports. I'm going this weekend, knock on wood. My first child, or my middle child, got sick, or seems like they're getting sick. And I'm like, don't give it to myself and the youngest, because my youngest and I are due to go to Disney World this weekend. You can get some live trip reports from that. Want to thank some new Patreon subscribers, Mike R. and Ann M., who both subscribed recently. I just really want to thank you and all the other Patreon subscribers who are out there. We really appreciate your support and very thankful for it. Why am I talking so much? Because Leslie is going to do most of the talking today. Leslie, you had a fun Thanksgiving. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about what you did before we get into the meat and bones of what the topic's going to be today?
All right, so I went on a 6-night cruise out of Galveston, Texas on the Disney Magic, the original Disney Cruise Line ship. And I've been on the Wonder before, but never the Magic. The Wonder twice, once with you, Joe. So similar, pretty much identical ship, but just slightly different themes to some of the spaces and whatnot. And the cruise left on the Monday of Thanksgiving week and came back to Galveston on the Sunday after Thanksgiving. So went to Cozumel and to Grand Cayman. So really just kind of in very, very short times in port because of the distance that we had to cover to get all the way from Galveston down to the tip of the Yucatan Peninsula and then back. So a lot of time at sea. So we had 3 sea days. So it went board on Monday, 2 sea days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Thanksgiving itself, we were in Grand Cayman. Friday, we were in Cozumel. Saturday was a sea day, and then Sunday we debarked.
Yeah, and it seemed pretty awesome. Listen to your trip reports. It was a lot of fun. Now, if we have time, we're going to talk a little bit about the cruise in general at the end of the episode. I think we'll have a little bit of time to touch on 1 or 2 things. But what we really want to talk about today, what I'm really curious about and what I was really interested in is this is the first time either of us have done one of Disney Cruise Line's holiday themed cruises. So there is the Very Merrytime Cruise that you did, and then there's the Halloween on the High Seas, which is, of course, during the fall season. So I wanted to talk about what Christmas options, what holiday options there are on Disney Cruise Line. So that's what we're going to focus on today. All the ships do it. I'm sure everything is a little bit different, but let's talk about what it's about. So let's start with the basics. Like, what is the Very Merrytime Cruise? And are there dates that it generally falls in? Is it just like after Halloween, it just starts immediately, or what does it look like?
So, Very Merrytime Cruise, I mean, it probably goes without saying, it's just the theme during the holiday season, themed for Christmas and other winter holidays. And so, what you sort of get overlays in the parks, you get something similar, but maybe, in the cruise version of that in on the cruise ships. You mentioned that it was all the ships. Actually, right now, this year, it's not all the ships. Right now, it's just the Magic, Dream, Fantasy, and Wish, not the Treasure when it launches in a couple of weeks, and not the Wonder. And I'm presuming that's because the Wonder is in Australia. And again, I looked ahead to 2025. The Treasure will offer next year Very Merrytime cruises, but again, not the Wonder, at least on the schedule we have so far. So if you want to do this, you've got to be on everything, I guess, but the Wonder for next year. These run starting in early mid-November. It depends on the ship. I saw dates for next year as early as November 7th, sail dates. And then the cruises that have them go until sort of the very last sailing that departs before Christmas. So if you're going on a sailing that's right after Christmas, that sailing that would cover New Year's, those are not Very Merrytime as far as I can tell. So that's something to keep in mind. You have to sail before Christmas Day itself to be able to experience one of these offerings. But pretty much now it's covering most of the month of November and December, just like it does in Disneyland and Disney World.
Yeah, so it's not quite like Disney World where October 31st, you go to bed, November 1st, you wake up and all the decorations are there. Now, one thing that I found interesting, Leslie, is it seems that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems that on every one of these Very Merrytime cruises, there's some sort of Christmas tree lighting ceremony. Is the tree already there when you enter the atrium that first day, and then there's a ceremony that goes along with that? And was that on the first day?
Yes. So when you come into the atrium to board the cruise, the tree is already there. All of the lights and garlands and everything sort of hanging off of the stories of the atrium are already there. You have the sort of ooh and ah moment when you board, but then they just have a special ceremony to light the tree up and bring characters out and sort of get people fired up about the cruise early in the cruise. I'm trying to remember if it was the first night. I think it was. I don't think it was the second night. I don't remember the exact timing, but it's right at the beginning of the cruise, and you just get to sort of set the scene for what's to come and get excited about the holidays. So lots of decorations all around the ship, but the main focus is that lobby. And the other thing, all the ships have a giant real gingerbread house in the lobby, so life size. So that's, you see that as well. That's all lit up and then decorated with gingerbread stuff.
Okay, question for you, both about the ceremony and the decorations in the atrium in general. It's like the Magic, it's not that big of a ship, and it's not as, the most recent, actually, I was on the Magic most recently as well, so that's fresh in my mind, but like a couple months before that, I was on the Wish, and the Wish atrium compared to the Magic, it just feels so much bigger and more expansive. So did it feel tight in there with like the gingerbread house? Because it just feels like every little bit of space. And then sometimes outside of, what's the restaurant on the Magic called? The one right off the atrium?
Oh, Lumiere's. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's like people are, I think we've said on this podcast, don't rope drop dining. Like there's no need to line up before dining, but it gets pretty crowded. So how did it feel with all the decorations? And then during the tree lighting ceremony itself, was it like super crowded? Did it feel like you were shoulder to shoulder?
So it does get tight in spaces on the Magic. I mean, of course, there are fewer people on the ship, so that reduced proportionately. But you're right. I mean, there were definitely times on the ship that my husband does not love, like being in the sort of the throngs, and he was like, "Nope, this is not for me. I'm getting out." He did not go to the tree lighting ceremony, if I'm remembering correctly. I just did and found a spot. But it's hard to get, if you want to get a front row seat for it, if you have like young kids and you want to get them on the railing, like you have to get there about a half hour in advance. Me, I was just like cruising in and out and holding my phone over three deep of human beings. And so yeah, if you really want to make this a priority, yes, you do have to get there early, just like the parks. I mean, not as bad as you might have to for a nighttime parade or a fireworks spectacular at the parks, but you do have to. There's no rolling in at 5 minutes before and expecting to get a prime view. I'd never rope drop dinner, especially at Lumiere's, because it does get crazy in the lobby with people taking a lot of photos. That's where a lot of the photo op locations are. So yes, it could get really jam packed, but it was very short lived. It was only, I'm talking 10 or 15 minutes of craziness, and then the crowds would disperse.
That's good to know. So any other holiday decorations around? I see a note in here in the show notes that the kids clubs are decorated. Is it like nicely done, or is it just kind of like my house, just one string of lights?
No, I mean, there's like nice trees all over the ship in lots of different spaces. And I'm trying to like remember the different trees, but like each kid of the kids clubs that we went into had a nice tree. And then I did tour the Oceaneer Lab and the Oceaneer Club during the open house time at the beginning of the cruise. And they had garlands that were lit and some special things. So you did get the vibe everywhere on the ship that it was the holiday season. You definitely felt like it wasn't as over the top as you would get in the parks for sure, but it was not just in the lobby. So I was glad to see that.
And I'm curious, I always wonder about our non-Christmas celebrating friends. Any menorahs or anything like that? Or, did it just seem like sometimes it does feel like at the holiday season for Disney, it's mostly Christmas with everything else as an afterthought.
I think so, and I felt that way even more on the cruise ship than in the parks. Like, at least at Disneyland, you certainly get a more diverse holiday season with Festival of the Holidays. I did not see anything menorah. If it was there, I just didn't see it. It didn't stand out to me. We did have a winter holiday trivia one of the times that we attended, and a lot of the questions were very equitably distributed among the different holidays. We covered Kwanzaa and Hanukkah and Three Kings Day and several different things. So that was good, but I did not see any decorations that were any holiday other than like Christmas and sort of generic winter holiday for people of no religion or any religion.
That's good to know. And not to make light of what is, I think it's it's an issue, but not to make light of that. But those of you out there who are religious studies majors, this is your chance to win the medal for Disney Cruise Line trivia. Go to that winter holiday trivia, which, Leslie, I know we're going to talk about your cruise later. Did you ever end up winning anything? I think you tried trivia as many times as we did, which was like half a dozen times on the Magic.
No, we came really close, we had a better chance at the beginning of the cruise to win because fewer people attend them. More and more people attend trivia as the cruise goes on, so it gets harder and harder. But we came really close. We were second place twice. My son did win video game tournaments in the Twin Club, so he was the winner of the family.
Okay, so the Harvey family did not go home empty-handed. That's good to know. All right, back to the holiday stuff. Characters in costumes. I saw some great pictures. Of course, the Harvey family again with their favorite Chip and Dale. But in general, are there holiday costumes? Is this marked in your app? Is there any way to know, or is it luck of the draw?
So the characters do come out in Christmas costumes, but it's not marked in the Navigator app, which is frustrating because you'll see on the app over the course of the cruise, we only were looking for Chip and Dale. At this point, my kids don't really care about meeting characters except Chip and Dale. And so we kind of were looking in the app when they were out, and they were out several times most days of the cruise, but we never would know what will they be wearing. We ended up meeting them on one of the more formal nights, and they were in their tuxes or tails or something like that. So they were dressed up for the formal night. They were not in their holiday attire that night. And there's sometimes where the characters are wearing just their standard nautical Disney cruise stuff. So you don't know, based upon what's in the app, which one to show up for if you want to get a particular look. I think the best guideline you can use, they did tell us that Friday night, which was the day after Christmas, was kind of the launch of the holiday season. So that night you could kind of count on the characters being in their holiday attire. So that would have been the night, if we really wanted to get those photos, that we should have prioritized it. But it was a little hard to make. If you wanted to be a completist and get all of the different looks that the characters had, you would just have to devote a lot of man hours to going and seeing what they were wearing and being ready at a lot of different times.
I mean, that's crazy. Like 3 different costumes that's a lot to try to get. The signature is the same no matter what they're wearing. All right, so in terms of entertainment, any extra entertainment like pirate night type stuff that is holiday themed, or what do we got here?
So we mentioned we had the tree lighting ceremony to kick off the cruise, and then in the middle, I think it was actually on that Friday, the launch of the holiday season, they had something called Mickey and Minnie's Holiday Party. And that was new, as I understand it, to the ships last season in 2023. And I did not attend that because at that point we were just into other things, and our kids were off at teen clubs and tween clubs, and my husband and I were trivying or having some time at like one of the adult spaces, getting a holiday drink. So we did not see that. I've seen, videos of it on YouTube. And this is like kind of a mini pirate night deck party. So you go up to the deck, and everybody, the crowds are there in front of the stage, and the characters come out and sing several songs, and they're, some of the regular performers, the non-character performers are mixed into that. The downside of this was just crowds. This is where you're going to be standing room only. It's going to be chaotic. They do have a section in the front, like at Pirate Night, for just the younger kids to have their space, but this was not going to be my husband's cup of tea. I definitely couldn't talk anybody into going and experiencing that. And then it was, at that point in the cruise, getting colder. So you're on the deck party and it's windy, and we went to Pirate Night, but a little bit reluctantly. And after that, we were not going to do that again.
Yeah, I feel like if I was on there during the holiday time, I would try to get to some of the things, but there's so much to do. I mean, it just feels like this is just extra, surplus to requirement. And maybe this speaks to whether, if you want nothing to do with Christmas and still go on Disney Cruise, and you just happen to have to go during November, December, I can see why that might be a turnoff. And but it sounds like you can, except for the decorations and stuff like that, you don't really need to participate. And there's in the holiday stuff, and there's still a lot of things to do. So that's good to know that, the entertainment isn't completely, I guess just, it's not like the entire, everything about the ship is Christmas.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like all of the Disney defaults are in place for a regular cruise. And like, we didn't really care whether this was a very maritime cruise or not. We just wanted to go when it fit our family schedule. And Thanksgiving week worked for us this year. And it was like, oh, bonus, we'll get some Christmas stuff too. That's exciting. So you could really do, like I say, all of the other default offerings and never do any of the special things. Because it really is just the tree lighting ceremony, the holiday party on deck, and then it's lots of a couple of little things mixed in, like for example the anyone can cook experience with the chef where he makes something in front of you. They made a Yule log this year, and then they had one of the 30-minute caroler sessions in the lobby if you wanted to see Christmas carols being sung by the performers in the Broadway shows. They were there. They brought out Mrs. Claus for story time for the little kids. A couple of the crafts were holiday themed, and like I said, there was that one holiday trivia of the various winter holiday seasons. So you really didn't have to participate, like you say, in the holiday stuff if you didn't want to, and then if you could catch what you wanted to catch, and that's what we did.
Yeah, then of course it is Disney, so lots of holiday themed merch. Terrible news, Leslie. I did not realize until yesterday that my Christmas sweater that I ordered from the Disney store was out of stock and did not come through. I was like, why did my daughter's thing come through and mine didn't? So I'm gonna have to scramble to get some sort of Christmas themed sweater for Jollywood Nights this Saturday. So that's just a random aside. But lots of holiday merch on the cruise, holiday photo ops as well, with the regular cruise photos. You guys do a good job taking cruise photos, by the way. I was looking at your instagram.com/tripswithtykes, by the way. You should check it out. You guys do a good job with photo ops. We're like really bad at doing the cruise photos, but there's like holiday themed cruise photos. So I thought that was pretty cool. Now, one thing I'm curious about, Home Alone, did they show it on the cruise at all?
No, and I think if we had been on a different sailing, we would have gotten more holiday movies. They definitely bill the Very Merrytime Cruises as having holiday movies, but we didn't really get to do that many of them, have that many of them, because, I mean, for a good reason, Moana 2 debuted during our cruise, and they showed that probably a dozen times at the various different places where they show movies. So I think the holiday movie offerings got edged out by the movie debut. The only thing I saw on the Navigator app that I remember was they showed Muppet Christmas Carol on Funnel Vision. So maybe just one or two other shows, but we did not get to see Home Alone. I would have watched it. I would have looked for it.
Yeah, that's one nice thing about the Wish class ships. So the Disney Wish and then the soon to be Disney Treasure, which is going to be doing these Very Maritime in 2025. They have two theaters, so they can run double them, or I guess not double the movies since Funnel Vision counts as a movie theater as well. And I found that I found on the Magic, when we sailed on the Magic in July, there wasn't a ton of movie options, and there was just that one theater, and they weren't going to use like the Walt Disney Theater to show movies, except for during the big premiere and stuff like that. So I heard my first song from Moana 2 yesterday watching the Disney Christmas special. My biggest question, which I put out there into the world, was how did they get the Journey of Water stuff working for Ali Carvalho when she was singing it? So the water features were all working when she was singing it, which is not what happened last time I was at Journey of Water in Epcot. Epcot catching strays, sorry, out there, Epcot fans. Now, you can also buy, so with the holiday merch stuff that Leslie and I don't really get into, but you can, get your room decorated. Like, you can prepay and they'll, decorate your room, or, if it's a birthday, they can do that on a special day. You can have your kid come in and then the room's all decorated for birthday stuff. That's what you can do for a regular cruise. There are special in-room holiday packages if you want to do that. So that's an option. That's not something that we partake in, but if you're into that, that's there. Now I'm curious, as we wrap up this Very Maritime discussion, anything you felt like was missing holiday-wise?
So the thing that I felt was missing the most was, especially coming from my Disneyland perspective, there wasn't much special holiday food at all. The menus were really just what the menus were. I mean, this was kind of a missed opportunity in my mind. And I certainly wasn't expecting it to be the level of the parks where, they're trying to get the locals in to take pictures of the latest churro or whatever. But I wanted something, and there really was very little. It seems like it would have been very easy to do something as simple as like red and green sprinkles on the donuts at breakfast. Or I guess I've seen in other publications that there maybe were like Mickey gingerbread men or something like that. I did not see them on our cruise, see them advertised, and I did go to Cabanas, for lunch and breakfast a couple of times. Never really saw anything that was holiday specific food wise. We did of course get Thanksgiving dinner on Thanksgiving itself. It was definitely not what mom or grandma would make, but it was adequate. But I just wanted some more holiday stuff. This was a great opportunity for the pastry chef at least those last couple of sailings after Thanksgiving to have more themed desserts at dinner at least, and definitely didn't have that. So I felt like that was missing on the cruise. The other thing I felt was missing was there wasn't really like a stage show that was holiday focused. And I think at some point they may have had this on Very Merrytime Cruises. I don't know if it was pre-COVID. Maybe one of our Disney Cruise expert listeners can clue us in on this, but it was really just that crowded standing room only entertainment that was not our bag. So I feel like Disney, if it really wants to go over the top, could add that, especially to things that were longer sailings, because we of course had six nights, so we only had 3 nights of the Broadway style shows, and then we had like a magician and a juggler, and then the Moana 2 debut was our 6th night of entertainment. So I feel like that could be a slot where, at least on the longer cruises, where you filled in with like something bigger. So this was not parks level. I mean, this was not what you're about to experience at Jollywood Nights in terms of the entirety of the experience. And that is good for some people, and maybe that's a negative for other people who really want to dive in to this like they would do at Disneyland or Disney World.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it feels like since you did not book this for the Christmas aspect of it, it's almost like there was just Christmas trimmings, holiday trimmings, a cruise that you would have taken otherwise. And, it seems like you got a good dose. And, yeah, maybe it is better they don't go full 100% because maybe I'm sure their bean counters have calculated the exact ratio of Christmas to just regular offerings that will make them the most money, especially over Thanksgiving.
Right. Well, and they're still bean counting, because this was actually a question on the survey that I filled out before we debarked the ship. They wanted to know, was it the right amount of holiday offerings? And was the fact that this was a Very Merrytime Cruise a reason that we booked the cruise? Was it the reason? Was it part of the reason? Was it not a reason at all? And so we put that it was part of a reason, because that was a bonus for us. It wasn't like, nothing that it rated for us. So the bean counters are counting, and I did put that it was the just right amount of holiday offerings, in my opinion. But I think for some people who are frequent cruisers who've done a lot of the defaults, maybe they would want more unique offerings like they do in the parks.
All right, well, that does it for Very Merrytime Christmas Cruises. Leslie, we got a little bit of time, so let's take a quick break and touch on one or two of the other aspects of the cruise. One thing I want to hear about in particular. So we'll take a quick break and be right back. All right, so for the non-holiday stuff, Leslie, the one thing I want to know about is your Mexican wrestling excursion.
Of all
Saw
the
some
things.
great pictures. I saw some great pictures. Did not get to listen to that one of your trip report yet. So I'm coming to this fresh. I really want to hear. I mean, I just feel like you guys picked like one of the most unique excursions. And I know that your husband is very into it. So it's a little bit of a niche, so to speak. But how did you enjoy it as a non-Mexican wrestling enthusiast?
I mean, he's not really into Mexican wrestling either. He's just a quirky guy who's into unique offerings. And so we thought, especially with our port days being back to back, we were spending time in the water snorkeling in Grand Cayman, that we didn't need to do another water excursion the next day in Cozumel. So we were like, okay, let's go all in on this Mexican wrestling thing. And I mean, we knew this was going to be a very touristy offering, and it was. And so you kind of have to go into that with that understanding. We were shipped in the minibus off to a venue where other cruise ship passengers and other folks who you know, probably have, not doing the deep dive into the culture of Mexico.
They didn't get their first choice, let's say. Maybe they didn't get their first choice.
They did get, that's the thing is this was the first choice for some people. But anyway, it was super cool. So we got to a venue and it was associated with a restaurant and bar and something like that, because they sold packages to some people who could go see the Mexican wrestling and then go, eat next door and whatnot. And so it was a nice venue. It probably seated, I don't know, 100 people. And we got to see two different bouts. We saw one was, and they immediately introduced like who were the good guys, who were the bad guys. And, there was one team and it was called the Technicos and they were the good guys. And then the Rudos were the bad guys. And so people were immediately cheering and booing for the people on the different teams. Each Mexican wrestler had a very distinct character. So it was like one was kind of like a snake who was a bad guy. And then one was one of those shape-shifting animals like Dante and Coco. I'm going to butcher the Spanish word, alebre. Somebody's got to fix that one for me, but you know what I'm talking about. And anyway, so we just got to enjoy these. I mean, it's super fake. These bouts were super, super fake, but they were great performers, great acrobatics. It was amazing what some of these wrestlers could do. My son was way into it. All of us were enjoying it. It was good, old-fashioned family fun. They delivered. They knew exactly what would get the American audience up on their feet and cheering, and it was great. It was really great.
That's awesome. The other thing I wanted to touch on was I did want to talk about the spa for a little bit, just because I had heard that there's been a lot of upselling, I think both on Facebook groups and on DCL podcasts and various places. So we talked a little bit about it offline, your experience, and I thought you might just want to share with people since you did get upsold. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, so my husband and I did a couples massage, the basic 50 minutes. It was a solid massage, and then afterwards, where you're nice and relaxed and just wanting to go about your day, they come in and they start like opening the drawers and showing you stuff that you need to buy and telling you that you really need this because this part of your body was tight or whatever. So, I mean, my husband and I are very good at declining the upsell, and we did, but it was not like how you want to end that experience that you have just paid like $250 each for. So did not love that because we never buy those upsells. So that's a bummer. And I do think the spas are run by a third party. Is that right?
I have no idea. Christy, feel free to chime in, DCL podcast. But yeah, I don't love that. I wish that you could just get it all out of the way at the end. I mean, at the beginning, but I'm guessing that they were waiting for you to be like relaxed so that your like guard is down or whatever. So that kind of sucks. Okay, so let's spend like a couple more minutes. Any other highlights or quirky or interesting things that happened that you think might be useful to share with people? Maybe things that are maybe outside the normal scope of people's typical cruises.
So I will say this is our first cruise where the age ranges have changed for the tween and teen clubs, I guess really more the tween clubs. And our son had just turned 11 earlier this fall, so this was his first time in Edge. I had my concerns. I thought, oh, is he ready for this level of independence? And is he going to be not out of place with, kids who are 2 years older or something like that? It was a blast. It was great. The kids at the right age found each other. I do think, at least on the Magic and the Wonder, Edge is now way too small of a space for the number of kids who want to use it, because there are more people in the tween age who want to use the Edge than at the teenage who want to use Vibe, because the teens tend to
because they're not too cool, right?
Right. They're not too cool at that point. They all want to be there. It was very crowded in Edge, and it didn't bother my son, but I definitely felt like the space is not allocated accurately at this point in the sailing. So that's something to keep in mind. But I'm going to write up a complete sort of guide to tweens and teens based on our experience on our cruise. So look out for that. Hopefully before the year is up. Famous last words. But all in all, I mean, we really did enjoy the cruise. I will say, I still do not think, I did say this in our trip reports, the food on Disney Cruise is not up to snuff to some other comparable tier cruise lines. The food is just not quite there. And it didn't bother us, but for people who are foodies, I think they will be disappointed. I did not think that like my main course several nights was anywhere close to, even what I would get at a place like Blue Bayou, which is dinged for supposed to be very high end, but it's not quite very high end.
Yeah, I mean, I will chime in with that. I don't mind the food, and I think it's all good to great. But one thing I've noticed now that I've done a lot more sailings, I think this February will be my seventh. I've noticed that the menus are like repeating at this point, and so I'm recognizing, maybe because your last sailing was out of San Diego, it was different, but like all these Caribbean sailings, it's like the same menu over and over. And so, either, there's some stuff that I really like, so I just keep getting the same thing, or but there's like kind of nothing new to try. So that's one thing I've noticed. I mean, obviously, hashtag first class problems, like one of the most first class problems. I've been on Disney Cruise Line too much. Yes, poor woe is me. But I will note for people who are repeat cruisers and things like that, the menus don't seem to change a lot. I think that is why, I know you went to Palo for brunch this time and had a good experience there. And we are booked in Enchante on the Treasure in February, just because, especially because ours is going to be a 7-night sailing, which the menu does. It's not like they repeat the same menu twice on a 7-night sailing as what you would get on a 3 or 4 night. But still, I feel like I could use a little bit more variety. So I think that's something I'd love to see Disney Cruise Line work on as well. All right, before we get to our Disney do and don't, let's talk about where, because I know you want to write up your stuff, and Google's starting to play a little friendly again, but we don't trust them. So where can people find your work, Leslie? What can they type in to their search bar?
Tripswithtykes.com. I'm at Trips with Tykes everywhere on social media. Most of this is on Instagram. If you want to go take a look there, I've made a little highlight. I do that for every Disney trip that I take, so you can click through even if after the fact. And where can folks find you, Joe?
You can find me at As Joe Flies all over social media. Joseph Chung at Travelmation with an M.net. If you're looking to plan a trip, would love to help you out, especially Disney Cruise Line, all that stuff. Okay, back to the holidays, Leslie, with our traditional Disney do or don't. Don't want to give you the platform, but I guess as my co-host, I do have to give you the platform. So what is your holiday themed Disney Cruise Line Disney do or don't?
Okay, hear me out. I did not actually do this, but I wish I had done this on this cruise. If there's ever a time that you're going to do like the matching Christmas PJs with your family, it should be on a Very Merrytime Cruise. I saw so many families who had great photos together, and I mean, about half the ship was wearing Christmas PJs on that Friday night after Thanksgiving for their evening attire. It was super cute. It was festive. It added to the vibe. And I thought about it before the cruise and just didn't get my act together. And I don't think I would ever do it anywhere again. Like, we are not matching t-shirt families. But the matching Christmas PJs was a super cute touch that a lot of families did take advantage of. So if you're going to do it once, Very Merrytime Cruise.
All right, I guess I should not harangue you too much about this, because I was like, I guess I just 20 minutes ago complained that my Disney Christmas sweater didn't come in. Ours are not matching, by the way. I looked for matching. So I guess once again, as always, at the end of these episodes, we've exposed our hypocrisy. I looked for matching outfits for myself and my daughter. Couldn't find them, and I am going to scramble and try to find some sort of holiday thing to wear on Saturday at Jollywood. So I get it. And yeah, I guess like where better than a cruise ship where everyone's wearing their PJs can you walk around in your PJs? Like, so I guess that's pretty good advice. So I stand corrected, Leslie. I'm glad I gave you the platform.
All right. Brought you around.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for listening. If you've been on a Very Maritime Cruise, we'd love to hear about it. DisneyDeciphered@gmail.com, at WWDeciphered on Twitter or on Instagram, Disney Deciphered. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We hope you're having a good holiday season. Other than that, Leslie, thank you for taking the time to talk to me. And I'll see you buying matching Christmas PJs on December 27th, because they're going to be on sale.
Thanks, Joe.